This lesson, we're going to be introducing randomness into our JavaScript. And randomness is almost a crucial part to any game because you want to create some type of unexpected result. And in this case, it's fairly simple what we're trying to do. We're asking the user to guess whether it's heads or tails using our math random in JavaScript to generate either heads or tails. And depending on what the result is, then we check to see if the user guessed it correctly. And if they did, then they win. If they didn't, then they got it wrong. So let's put in some instructions for the player within the message area. Select either heads or tails. And then now within the coin toss, this is where our content gets triggered. So we're moving the game along within the coin toss function, and we're checking to see what button got clicked so that we can compare to see what actually got tossed using our random value. So let's create our random value using the let computer toss. We're going to use math random here. In math random in JavaScript, what this is going to produce, this is going to produce a long number, 0, dot, and a whole bunch of decimal places. So we're going to have to fix that as well. I'm going to log out what the value of computer toss is so that you can see that within the console. So pressing heads or tails doesn't matter. This is our computer toss value. So it's not very useful for us right now because we need to show either a 0 or a 1. So let's bring this value down and get rid of all of the decimal places. And we can do this using math floor. So math floor will get rid of all the decimal places. And we're still going to have a problem here because when we refresh and if we go heads or tails, we're always landing on 0. So we need to have some type of multiplication in order to work our math random value. And we saw that this produced a really large number, but if we multiply it by 2, then it's going to produce a value of 0 or 1 dot and a whole bunch of decimal positions down. And if we get rid of math, if we use math floor, that will get rid of the decimals. So now we're going to be producing either a 1 or a 0 randomly. So heads is the first time we're clicking it 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 1, 0, and so on. And the same thing for tails. So this is our computer toss. And next, we need to check to see if it was heads or tails that was clicked. And then depending on whether it was heads or tails, then we can make the decision if they matched the computer toss or not. And what I'll do is I'm going to set up some variables here. And within the coin array, we're going to have two values. We'll have heads and tails. I'm going to write it the same way that it's presented on top of the buttons. So we've got heads, we've got tails within our coin array, and we know that we can use these in order to provide a value back. So when we're using our computer toss, we can use whatever the 0 or the 1 value and select an item from our coin array. So let's do that. And within the coin array, so now we're going to be returning back either heads or tails. So we've got our selection was heads and the computer selection is tails, both selected heads. I'll add in a string value here as well so that we can see it visually being represented into the console. And I'm going to add in 1 here for the player so you can see which one the player selected and which one the computer selected. So player was heads, computer was heads, so that would be a win. And we see that this one would be a loss because they're not equal. So in the next lesson, we're going to apply the logic and make our calculations using a conditional statement, whether it matched up or not. And if it did, then the player gets a point. If it didn't, then the computer gets a point. So we'll do it that way. So that's still coming up in the upcoming lessons.